Good evening. Welcome to the July 8th, 2026 meeting of the Ottawa Planning Commission. Let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Chair Kane. Member Harris.
Here.
Member Cohen.
I'm here.
Member Straznik Dean. Here. Chair Maxwell.
Here.
Member Ogle. Member Griffith.
Thank you. Let's move to the consent agenda, which are the minutes from our previous meeting. If you have any corrections, amendments, now would be the time to speak up. If I hear none, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I move it. Second.
A motion and a second. Let's vote on that. Those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. At this time, I'd like to give the Planning Commission members a chance to declare any conflict or communication they've had that might influence their ability to consider today's issues impartially. Hearing none, we will move forward. Our next item is unfinished business regarding the capital improvement program. It was, come on up, you're probably feeling really comfortable here now. You've been in front of us so many times. We, just to clarify, we had this discussion at our last meeting, and in reality, we have a lot of new commissioners or very recent, and I think the gravity of that meeting and the amount of data that was there just kind of left some folks a little bit uncertain as to what they were really seeing and hearing. And I don't mean to speak for anyone in saying that, but the point of this was to provide an opportunity to get clarification, to ask questions now if something has come to light in the interim. And so our goal is to make that happen. And as I understand, this is not an issue that we vote on. This is simply an approval process where, or an affirmation process, I should say, where we're simply affirming that what's been presented to us does in fact conform with the strategic plan, and it can move forward. So we, in that sense, we will not take a vote, but we need to leave here giving a decided affirmation to this process if possible. So that's a preface. So jump in.
It's a great summary. So I might add to that piece of the information that we will hold a public hearing, and that's part of finding this in conformance with the comprehensive plan. And that would be an opportunity for anyone in the public to come and ask questions about what's in the CIP and how does it comply with the comprehensive plan. But then at the close of that public hearing, you will be asked to vote that it does comply with the comprehensive plan. But as far as this evening, really, we're here to answer any questions you might have. Just as a brief overview, the CIP, the capital improvement program, as it was put together, is a 5-year, multi-year plan, and that we have provided kind of a summary of all of the projects that are included in there. Really, the bulk of those projects are maintenance projects for existing city facilities or existing city properties. So that really the original project or the original approval of that facility even coming into the city and existing was deemed to be in compliance with your comprehensive plan at that time. And really, these are just maintenance projects. There might be a few in there that you might want to discuss even further. And I know that your community development staff has provided you with a document that had some page numbers, so maybe you could go back and reference the comprehensive plan and find those places a little more easily for each one of those projects. And really, beyond that, unless you would like to review everything in detail again, like we did a couple weeks ago, which we're happy to do, we could talk about them in summary, or we can just be available for questions. I would also add, you had several general questions about projects that maybe weren't in the CIP plan, and we do have a few of those answers back from Public Works and Utilities, and I'm happy to share those answers with you, whether you would like that before you really discuss what's in the CIP, and we can tackle that at the end, or I'm happy to answer those beforehand. But really, all of those questions are not relevant to what's in the capital improvement program today, and or relevant to the comprehensive plan overall.
I think I'd prefer you go ahead and answer those now. And while that's happening, people can kind of get their thoughts together if they have some
That's
specific
great.
directions.
Perfect. I can do that. Okay. So one of the questions, I'll cover the items related to utilities first. The question was, are there plans to move the existing high voltage electric lines that run over the top of the splash pad? And the answer that was provided is we do not currently have plans to relocate the lines above the splash pad. The plans went through every community development phase that was required and were approved by the city engineer. There was a question about whether or not we could combine the study for the Northeast substation and the system conversion project. And the answer is the conversion study itself is almost complete, and we should have that report back soon. We can think about combining the Northeast substation project and the master plan together, as that's budgeted for 2027, to potentially lower the cost. That's more of an operational cost. There was a question about the 17th Street traffic light, as it was previously in the capital improvement program, and this time it's not. So great question. The response is everything has been upgraded at that particular intersection with the exception of placing a left turn lane signal, which will be covered in the operational budget. And the project was removed from the CIP based on the newer technology that's already been installed. So it's not necessary to reinvent that entire intersection any longer. And then the fourth question was, is there sewer available on West Wilson, which is west of 59 Highway? And if not, are there any plans to build sewer lines to that area? And the response is parts of West Wilson have access to north-south lines that are currently in place. There are currently no plans to build out that portion of the city. The infrastructure needed for that, the estimate for that cost is roughly $500,000, and it's considered a low priority versus the Central Interceptor and East and West Side Interceptor projects that need to take place. Both of those are included in the projects that you've seen in here, roughly $8 million plus for each one of those individually. There were a couple of questions for Public Works. Are there any plans to add restrooms to City Park? The response was that we currently have one portable restroom there from approximately April to October. While the addition of restrooms to City Park would likely be used and probably much better than the portable that's available, there aren't any current plans to add those restrooms at this time. We've discussed it, but there's no actual plan to do so. I think you had mentioned that there were some available restrooms underneath of the gazebo at one point. Those have all been blocked in. Those access points have been blocked in. I'm unclear as to exactly what is available, or whether or not any addition to that would be a possibility. And then, are there any plans to add new parks to the northeast quadrant of the city? And this was east of 59 Highway and north of 68 Highway was kind of the quadrant that we were discussing, since there's a lot of new housing going in. And right now, we do have Heritage Park on the north side of town, which is near our golf course. That's been there for many years. It is in need of some updating, but it does have an older playground and a short walking trail. At this time, we don't necessarily have any planned parks going in that north end. However, through the development of that area, that's likely a discussion that can happen. There were a few other questions related to 11th Street sidewalk, the 11th Street sidewalk, and whether or not there would be crosswalks installed. I don't have the specific answer to that. The planned restrooms for City Park was already answered. And then, are there plans to deal with stormwater issues on West Wilson? I don't have an answer to that yet, but I'll have answers to those. Happy to bring those back to you before we have the discussion at the public hearing, just so you have those answers as well. Again, none of those projects are specifically listed in your CIP that you have in front of you, so none of them would be related to the comprehensive plan determination that's needed to be made as a result of this process.
Thank you. At this point, I would open it up to commissioners to ask questions. That's what this was for. If you're seeking clarification on what you've heard or seen, that's what we came for. So I will open it up.
Yeah, I'm just kind of new into this process, so forgive me if I'm not. And I saw the long-term capital program, which was sent to me earlier this week, and I'm about 2/3 the way through it right now. So I'm not up to speed on a lot of the project, but I'm looking at, for instance, the airport. What is the long-term objective of that airport? Or what are you looking to make that into a regional airport, or are we satisfied with what it is, or is it already considered a regional?
I may have to lean on some others for that, but I believe it's already considered a regional airport. The taxiway reconstruction is really just, as it states, a reconstruction project of what's already there. The extension of the runway is to add some additional space so that larger planes can come in and land there that aren't currently able to land there. And as far as the future plans overall, I do know we have an airport master plan. I don't have that in front of me, but we'd be happy to send that to you as a resource.
Is that incorporated into the CIP, the long-term CIP?
It
200
is part of the
page.
capital improvement program
I
that's
can
that's here for you.
research that. Just haven't got-
Perfectly fine.
Other questions?
When we look at irrigation systems, for instance, in the golf course, I mean, we're looking to turn that into a money generator. Is it right now a generator or income?
For the golf course. So it's been open 1 year. Well, we're halfway through our second season. We do generate a significant amount of income through the golf course. If you're asking if it covers all of the operational costs at this point, I would have to say probably not completely. Those capital improvement projects, as with any service that you might have, or those available facilities, like let's use a pool as an example. Typically, it's easiest to cover your operational costs, but those capital improvement costs are typically difficult to cover with just income generated off of operations. So in this case, like you're asking about the irrigation system, in order to keep that golf course in the condition or a better condition than what it is even now, the replacement of that irrigation system would be really incredibly useful. Right now, it doesn't even serve the entire golf course, and we have a really good superintendent that's been able to try and fix some of those heads on the irrigation system to be able to get them to work, and has made incredible progress there. But in this case, we're still searching for grants or other opportunities to fund a project like that.
Do we amortize that?
What do you mean by that?
We put it on the depreciable schedule?
For the purpose of, we just acquired the golf course 1.5 years ago, began operations at the top of 2025. So that irrigation system is, I don't know, roughly 25, 30 years old, probably, or more. And so, are you talking about amortizing the irrigation system once we would replace it?
Exactly.
So, as far as placing it on a replacement schedule after it's been placed, is that?
Absolutely. We're going to do another funding in 20 years to reconstruct it again.
That's a really great question. I would assume that at some future point it would need continued maintenance and potentially even future replacement. We do have a capital improvement fund that has some dollars in it. As with all of our projects, we're always going out and seeking large grant dollars to be able to fund some of those, because we just simply don't have property tax dollars to cover all of the large projects that are available or that need to be done. So we would put that on a replacement plan or an improvement plan or maintenance plan over time. As far as what any of those improvement projects look like and where they may fall for available funding, I don't have that answer for you right now.
Score it at a certain asset level that we don't depreciate. It depends on the project.
So
Forgive me if I'm.
no, it's okay. It's fine. So we have assets across the city. So you're talking about an irrigation line, but we have other assets as well. Like, let's say the power plant, the water plant, the wastewater treatment facility that are 20 or 50 year buildings. And so we do have some vertical asset plans, maintenance and reconstruction plans. We do have some plans for other facilities. Right now, being so new, I don't have a good long-term capital improvement plan for the golf course, other than are only trying to tackle those things that are immediate improvements that are needed. We don't have a fully built-out asset replacement plan. That is probably one of the areas that we're lacking overall. We have a good idea of everything that needs to be maintained at this point. There are simply not enough dollars to do so. So right now, it's basically been being funded on a priority basis.
I'd like
And-
to
Go ahead.
kind of add on to what Mr. Griffith asked. He was talking about the funding on the golf course. Is it even covering its operational? Is the income even covering the operational cost of it now?
You know what, to be honest, I don't have a current year-to-date report in front of me. I would say we'll probably give an update to the city commission sometime over the next couple of months. In fact, our budget presentation on the golf course fund will be next week. So happy to send you the link to that conversation with them.
May I?
Mhm.
I remember when the golf course was purchased, I mean, the discussion was it probably wouldn't cover operations or just barely, but it's like a swimming pool. It adds an amenity to your community, which draws people or even businesses. And so I don't know that it'll ever be a moneymaker, but it's just adding an amenity to the community, just as a swimming pool, would, which doesn't cover its operations either.
Yes.
Do we have a scoring process for bringing in projects? Forgive me, in government, we always had to make presentations for the scoring process that said that this is what we expected as far as fiscal results. Whether it be a loss or, somewhere along the line, putting some type of intrinsic value to something, which put it above something else.
There's generally an analysis done. I don't know, I'm assuming that you've worked for a larger government process or government facility that might have had those larger departments to manage a scorecard process. And we don't have a scorecard process in place now. We do our own financial analysis for new projects as they come aboard, or as they're presented. But probably not to the level that you're asking.
Mr. Griffith asked about the irrigation system and being on a depreciation schedule. And what I gathered out of your response was due to the fact that it's an existing amenity or existing working part that it's not right now. But we've got like the cart path installation. Am I correct when I understand that is going to be a new cart path?
We've discussed many options on the cart path. When you say new, there are some areas that are accessible and many areas that are non-existent at this point for a cart path. And generally, to get from point A to point B is a difficult process. And so I would say it would be a replacement of the existing cart path in whatever form that might come in. Right now, we haven't identified the funds to do that, so there isn't an actual design for what that might look like. When we acquired the golf course, we thought that we might be able to improve those cart paths with the use of our city staff, and we've made some attempts. It's a difficult process just due to the layout of the golf course. And so, of course, you can't just go in and dump a bunch of rock because every time it rains, it's going to run downhill and then it's going to land in an area where someone needs to be able to hit a ball from. So it takes a little more strategy on how we're going to be able to accomplish those cart path renovations.
So it will be a depreciable item then, if it's new construction. Is that correct?
I would assume so. I don't have a good answer for you. That's really a long-term fiscal impact analysis that we haven't done. They're simply in here as a future project that we need to go look for funding for. Oftentimes, when you're asking for grant dollars, they want to see that it's a planned project that you've already had on your horizon. And so that's why many of these projects even live in the capital improvement program. They're simply maintenance projects that really aren't brand new anything other than we want to make sure that they're there in case we're able to acquire grant funding. And we've been able to do some great work on acquiring dollars from grants available just for things that have been already placed in the CIP. And that was one of the things I was explaining to you. It's why you don't see a lot out in 2030 and 2031 is because we front loaded a lot of those projects hoping for the opportunity to gain grant funds for those. A perfect example of that is the airport extension, the runway extension. So we had already received grant monies for the reconstruction of the taxiway. And we had also received a potential allocation from the federal level for the same project. And because that extension of the runway was already in our CIP, we were able to ask for them to consider using that project as an allocation instead. And we were able to get federal earmark dollars to accomplish the large majority of the cost of that project.
One of the things we ran into I'm also on the Maricine rep. And one of the things we were briefed on is the lack of matching funding now with a lot of the water projects that are being proposed by the state, Kansas Water Office, Kansas Water Authority, KDHE.
Yes.
And is there a solid, comfortable room that we're going to get these matching funds? And if they don't show up, do we push that project down and find one that pops up?
I have to
That makes
answer that
sense.
with yes or no. I understand what you're saying. So for the last couple of years, the state of Kansas has actually had a program in place, and they were using some of those ARPA funds that flowed from the federal to the state, and they had that set aside so they would kick in for so if you had a federal grant application out there, you could also apply to the state for the match portion of that. And the end of that has come in, well, those funds I think had to be returned by maybe October of this year. And so that part of the matching program will be going away. We're hoping that they'll replace that with some other form of grant match availability to cities and counties, but we would be required to come up with those funds. So we have a capital improvement fund, which when available, there's some dollars that gets transferred in from our general fund. We accrue some investment interest there. There's some other funds that we might be able to draw from. So if it's a utility, we have to look at the water fund and say, do we have available cash to be able to provide that grant match to, I guess, attain those federal funds? And if it's not available, we wouldn't be able to go after that grant. We try to be, though, as creative as we can in order to find the funding, especially if you're leveraging a very small amount of dollars to leverage $1 million. You know, so we really have to look at the whole project and what's available in each one of those funds.
Because the water office was really concerned about the access to federal funding in light of
Sure.
Will.
Sure. Yeah. And the water office and KDHE is really good about, they do have a grant program themselves, and they do also have a loan program that's been in place for, a long, long time for those kinds of projects as well. So it really just depends on the project and how you qualify for those funds. Sometimes I think we would, and sometimes I think we wouldn't. So I think it's really, again, just being as creative as we can to go find what's available to us.
So if I didn't want to waste any more of the valuable time here, could I
Yeah.
meet with and just kind of work on this offline with your group?
Yeah,
If that's
absolutely.
possible? So that way
Sure.
I don't tie everybody else up here. Because I have a million questions. We could-
Always available.
Regarding the grants, so just to clarify, what you have listed under the funding source summary, there's several grants. Are those grants that we're hoping to get or that we've already secured?
That's going to be a combination of both. So if I were to go to, I'm just going to choose the reconstruction of the taxiway. We have already acquired those grant dollars. It's already under construction. Typically, they're a reimbursement type grant. And so we construct, we pay, we get reimbursed, typically on a 30-day, 60-day rotating basis. The extension of the runway, as you can see, there's so $3 million coming from FAA. There's some other funding from KDOT grant. So we've pieced together a wide variety of funding sources here. That earmark from the federal side, we already have. We have the earmark. We don't have the funds in hand, but we do have the earmark that we would be able to move ahead with that, and that's been approved at the congressional level. So everything else beyond that, we have to make sure that once you go out and make sure that the design's done, you have a little bit better idea of exactly how much it could cost you, and then we come back and we reallocate amongst those funding sources that we know are available. Does that help answer?
Yes.
It really depends on the project. So we might be looking at another project where we think if it's in a future year where we're hoping that there's grant funds available. So back to say a cart path or at the golf course, or maybe even in, I don't think the irrigation line would apply, but there are some funds out there through the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. We may be able to apply them for some of our park projects, but maybe they don't actually, can't be considered for the golf course project. But we don't know that until it opens up and we have some insight and some access to people that can help us work through that process. So we're always out there constantly looking for foundations, grants, any of those things that might be available to us. Then we look at all the projects that we have available, see if they fit, and then see what our success rate might be with that. And then we go apply, and then we're left waiting to see if we actually get awarded those grant dollars.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
Do you have any questions about the comprehensive plan and how these projects apply to that? And I only ask because by providing those page numbers, hopefully that was useful to maybe go find where they might exist in the comprehensive plan. I know that some of them being maintenance projects, they aren't listed in there because they simply are just maintenance of an existing facility, but we're happy to try and answer those as best we can too.
I do have a question about the fact that we're still working on the new comprehensive plan. Do we have any idea when that process will be completed and when it will be adopted? And how that could potentially affect that table of things that we
Sure.
are looking at? Because I think there were some things that have changed and some priorities that have changed.
So right now, the thought process is sorry, City Manager Thatcher Motti, if anybody doesn't know me. Right now, you're working on a comprehensive plan process, meaning your staff is. There's going to be some engagement periods coming up with the Planning Commission on the development of that new comprehensive plan. So what you're doing here is trying to make a modern capital improvement plan work with a comprehensive plan that was developed in 2004, 2005. So it's almost like fitting a round peg in a square hole, so to speak. It's, times change, new initiatives, priorities happen, and it's not always going to fit exactly with your existing comprehensive plan. As you progress through this process, I think this capital improvement plan would match better with your updated comprehensive plan. It's going to fit Ottawa a little bit better and going to fit our modern zoning regulations, land use regulations, so on and so forth. So hopefully, as we get through this comprehensive planning process in the next few months and throughout the rest of the year, you'll find that this capital improvement plan probably will align with that modernized comprehensive plan a little bit better. So, yes, sir.
So as you develop this comprehensive plan, as I think I understand it, and in many respects, we contribute to some of the ordinances that are going to govern some of these projects. Is that correct?
Not necessarily through the comprehensive planning process. So typically, your comprehensive plan is just setting up recommendations. So if you primarily your role in that will be with the zoning regulations and any recommendations you have for that. The comprehensive plan is kind of your roadmap. And then so in the future, we would start to adjust ordinances, resolutions, anything we needed to do based on the feedback from the comprehensive plan. So it's when
There's some fair gaps right now.
Sure, when you adopt that comprehensive plan, it's not going to be an overnight, all your ordinances are fixed, all your regulations are fixed. It's more laying the groundwork so you can start to do some of those things.
We would be part of that working team or that working team.
Sure. So Ottawa's in a little bit of a unique position. Like you're not exactly starting from scratch with this comprehensive plan. It was developed in what it is. The draft is now, as it exists, was developed in the last few years. We've engaged Confluence, a consultant firm, to help us get that to a comprehensive plan that more aligns with state statute and the goals and vision of this community. So what we had before was kind of developed at a staff level and was not really a comprehensive plan, so to speak. So we're in a little bit of a unique position. We're trying to take a plan that is partially developed and get it over the finish line. Whereas you'd see in most cities, you'd be front to back, start to finish. So some of the public engagement sessions, some of that already happened several years back. You're more to the point of refining this plan and getting it over the finish line this year. So you have a newer, modernized plan to operate off of. I don't know if that answers your question slightly, but
Well, I think in terms of SWOT, I think in terms of looking
Sure.
at the strategic objectives of the organization, but from what I've seen of the plan, there is a lot of difference between what we saw in 2004 and what we're looking at today so far. So I
sure.
recognize that.
And some of what you've accomplished, or like a capital improvement plan that was developed in line with that comprehensive plan in '04, as a city, we've probably accomplished a lot of those things. So again, you're trying to fit a modern plan with new projects into an old comprehensive plan. So you're in a little bit of an off period. I would say this time next year, it'll be a more constructive discussion on, hopefully this capital improvement plan is matching what we outlined in the comprehensive planning process. And that process is not over. The engagement with the the planning commission and the city commission on that is not over. It's really just going to be beginning in the next month or two. So.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? My goal isn't to keep everybody here as long as possible, but I want to make sure we have this meeting for this reason. So I want to just make sure everybody's got an opportunity to ask what they want.
And I appreciate everybody's input. What I would be interested in, I'm retired, so I have time. So I would really be interested in having the opportunity to sit down with some of your departments and find out what your vision is. And then I would be better off at doing something that's congruent with that vision. But right now, yeah. So if it's possible, I'd like to talk to you maybe offline and maybe be able to sit with your group.
Absolutely.
I
Well,
appreciate it.
let me add something to that comment. I guess something that I would be interested in is just taking this opportunity. You have a lot of new people, new leadership, an opportunity maybe to think about the planning commission and what our role is moving forward, and whether or not we can have better or more involvement that would be helpful. We're here to serve. That's why people volunteer to do these things. And that means you're buying in, you're here to serve. So if there are ways, I don't want to keep on doing what I did yesterday if yesterday isn't as good as I could do. And if there are ways that we could be more effective, more informed, and hopefully that would be good for you too, if that were the case, then this might be a time to think about that. There are a lot of new folks here, an opportunity. I always see those as opportunities, at least.
Yeah. So outside of your plan, your main role, which is the land use and the zoning board, really the comprehensive plan is the biggest involvement the planning commission has, because the way state statute designates it, they designate the planning commission to be essentially the lead on the comprehensive planning process. So as a part of this, I think you'll have an engagement or joint workshop with the city commission. And I recommend those on a yearly basis if you can do them, just to be aligned with the city commission. But you're kind of laying the groundwork here for the comprehensive plan, but the city commission kind of outlines these goals that we have in front of us for the capital improvement plan, and some of which are projects or initiatives we've already taken on or have been responsible for, like the golf course or like the airport. So this is a good opportunity. And then to rethink it in the future is to go back to your comprehensive plan more often. So I've been here for 3 months, but I imagine in the last 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, we probably haven't gone back to that comprehensive plan as much as you're supposed to, or you're really designated to as our planning commissioner. So I think in the future, it's a unique way to think of when we have this comprehensive plan. It's not going to be the end all be all. It may not be completely perfect for everyone in this room or for all of our staff, but it's a working document from the standpoint of you go back to it once a year. You have meetings with the city commission. You you say, here are the issues we're seeing from a zoning perspective or a land use perspective or a development perspective, and you provide that feedback to the city commission and you work on this document and improve it. And really, every 3 years on a comprehensive plan, you're kind of due to tweak it and to address it. And every 5 years, you're almost due for a semi-overhaul of that comprehensive plan to take out goals that have been accomplished, to add new goals into it. So when folks say a comprehensive plan is a working document, that's what they mean. You really got to go back to it yearly, at least, but really every 3 years and especially every 5 years, and work with the other governing body to really move that plan forward. So it's a good thought for the future.
Well, I would really like to see us more involved in appropriate ways, and I also love a good plan. So I'd be delighted to see us being a part of that effort.
You've had several questions about just how things get funded and what our financial plans are. So we provide monthly financial reports to the city commission. They're also on our website, but they're also covered in the agenda packets once a month. We're in the middle of our budget process for 2027. So feel free to go watch those conversations, or also those materials are on our website as well under the budget page. Again, we'll have another conversation next Wednesday on budget. We had one this evening. We had one last week. And we'll be covering all of those different funds, probably more at a high level, but there's some detail in the agenda packets for each one of those. So you can kind of get a feel for what kind of funds are out there and how we operate overall financially at the city level. And then our audit, of course, is online. All of those things that maybe you want to use as some resources if you're really interested in that, and also always available to have a conversation in person about what the plans are or what plans we don't necessarily have written down yet. But anyway, there's resources there. We're happy to help through that process as well, or through those conversations.
Thank you. Okay, last call. Anything else? All right, we will close this discussion then for tonight. Thank you,
Thank you.
all of you. We have no new business listed. Staff comments. Any staff want to add anything further?
Thank the presenters. Sure, got the little gray cells working.
So I did want to introduce tonight Vic Finch. Vic is an Ottawa native, and he is our new community development director and chief building official. So excited to have him on the team. He's got close to 40 years of experience and has spent most of his career in Overland Park, seeing that community through a lot of different phases of growth and development. So we're excited to have him here and get him on board and hopefully get him involved with you guys in the future. So Vic
Great.
Finch.
Nice to meet you. Other commissioner comments?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
John.
just want to say that I thought it was great when I heard Vic was hired. I thought bringing in a wealth of experience, that just was a great hire, and I'm glad that you're a longtime Ottawan and now you're here helping Ottawa for us. So really, really look forward to working with you.
Anything else? All right, the next planning meetings, July 30 is a noon meeting, and then August 12 is 7 p.m. meeting. At this point, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.